of like how the bombing started and where it's going. Since the bombings have started, as once again a consequence of absolute fucking Israeli aggression against Palestinians, which they subject to horrible, countless amounts of cruelty, robbing them of their freedom in every way, shape, or form possible, in the most inhumane ways possible. You're never this emotional or adamant about Xinjiang. What China is doing is 100 times worse. Dude, you're a fucking idiot, dude. You're I don't know what to tell you. Like, while I'm talking about one group of Muslims that are being, not just Muslims, but Christians and even fucking Palestinian Jews, like, you literally turn around and you act like I never talk about fucking what's going on in Xinjiang. Like, shut up. Shut up. Okay. So let's watch this. Well, let's watch the I want to see, like, I hope there is no blood in this, because Abby Martin,
the so-called key to peace in the Middle East. But how do Jewish Israeli citizens feel? Those who are not in the government or living in illegal settlements. Last year, I traveled around the West Bank to release a series for the Empire Files on the plight of Palestinians, featuring their voices and stories. But I also went to speak to average Israelis in the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem. We're here in Zion Square in Jerusalem, which the government has actually declared to rename Tolerant Square. And we're just going to ask everyday Israeli...
Dude! Oh, that's so good, dude. Fuck, I gotta run an ad right now. I'm sorry. Before I forget, it's top of the fucking hour, boys. Gotta run that top of the hour ad here. You know, if you no longer want to see it, you can subscribe. Oh my God. It's so, like, Israel is so far ahead of, like, the liberalizing, like the neoliberal fucking fascism, that, like, we take notes from them. I start seeing like American politicians like the CIA doing like we're LGBT friendly propaganda and shit. And it's wonderful. It's so fucking, it's great. Here, I'm running the ad now. It's so great, dude.
What they think about the situation. You're American, where are you?
No, I don't want to watch the fucking middle ground video. That shit triggered the fuck out of me last time I watched it.
From and why did you come here?
I'm from New York, and I came here with my family when I was younger to make Aliyah, because it was always my parents' dream to come to Israel because we're religious.
So, are you American?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Why? When did you move here and why?
I moved here 11 years ago. My family moved here because this is the country of the Jewish people and the future of the Jewish people, and we want to be here.
How old are you guys?
18. We're 18 years old. Now we are here in Israel taking a leadership course, and we're going to the army for a few months to see how life's here. And then we hope to bring back some of this knowledge to our youth movements.
So you're like an internship with the army?
It's about 2 months, and they show you everything about the army.
Israel is a great place. It's a nice place. You should come and visit. I love Israel, and I feel safe here.
All that misconceptions are not true. Like, there's not people with knives every day, and there's not people exploding.
Palestinians?
Yeah. No, but pretty much the life here is really good.
For people living here, it's just normal to see people in the army walking around with guns, and you feel completely safe and protected.
I feel like we know who the threat is, and it's not coming from anyone random, as opposed to in the rest of the world that it could be anyone. Here we know who our enemy is, and we know that they are out to get us.
Who is the enemy?
Who's the enemy? That's a very good question. I don't think it's specifically any nation. I think it's the people that are so interested in being politically correct that they won't actually go after the people that are trying to cover things up.
And that seems so fucking insanely similar to like American conservatives, dude. I'm just saying, dog. Listen, dude. Listen. we love talking about how fucking liberal of a safe haven like Israel is and how liberal Israel is. And yeah, when it comes to like fucking tolerance for gay people and shit, Israel is certainly very tolerant. Okay, it's LGBT friendly, it's fucking vegan, you know? But there's a big but. They are so insanely reactionary towards like the existence of fucking Palestinians. I've talked about this before. Like the IDF doing propaganda about how vegan they are is the most hilarious and the saddest and most nefarious thing, because they're basically saying we care more about animals than we do about Palestinians, because like we'll fucking murder Palestinians literally fucking daily, but we will not kill an animal. Okay? Which is, I guess, the future vegan colonialists want.
I think that the Islam is it's a very bad disease, not just for Israel, for all around the world. We can see it. They think they all have to be Islam. If you're not Islam, they will kill you.
A lot of Americans don't really understand what Israel's like. We hear a lot of things in the news. A lot of people are sympathizing with the Palestinian plight. Can you talk about what it's like to kind of live in this situation?
First of all, it's very hard. I'm in an organization. It's called Lahava. It's against the Jews shouldn't marry Arabs.
Did you say the organization did what again?
Bro, come on, no race mixing, dog. Well, it's not even race mixing, because like Israelis are comprised of so many different ethnic backgrounds, because again, Jews are not a monolith, and they come from all different parts of the fucking world and have like a shared history in some ways. But I love when you know you just have like supremacist attitudes, dude.
Organization is the thing of it is that Jews shouldn't marry Arabs.
Shouldn't marry Arabs. Why do you feel strongly about that?
Because Jews is a special nation that God gave it to the Jews.
Identical to anti-Muslim rhetoric in a lot of ways. What do you mean? It is anti-Muslim rhetoric. It's literally anti-Muslim rhetoric.
And we don't want Jews to get mixed up together with a different nation.
I think Israelis have to take over. And
dude, come on, dude. They're Prevention of Assimilation in the Holy Land, a far-right organization based in Israel that strictly opposes Jewish assimilation, objecting to most personal relationships between Jews and non-Jews. It is opposed to the Christian presence in Israel. It has an anti-miscegenation focus, denouncing marriages between Jews and non-Jews forbidden by Orthodox Jewish law. Its actions have been denounced by the president of Israel, Reuven Rivlin, as being like rodents gnawing under the shared democratic and Jewish foundation of Israel. God damn, bro. They were preparing to categorize it as a terrorist organization. This dude's just like, yeah, I'm literally a Nazi, dude. Like, literally, I am straight up. I'm just, you know.
they have to kick them away. It will be much better not to kill them, just to go back to Arab countries.
You can't deal with these people.
Go back to your country. What power? Just said with a Israeli accent. It's just the same shit.
There's no need to try. There's no need to talk to them. What we can do is when they do enough harm, we retaliate. That's war, and that's the situation that any Jew who lives in Israel has to deal with.
יש לך משהו להגיד, אומרת
על מה?
גם ככה ערבים, מקסימום.
אוקיי. בסדר בעברית? פשוט מאוד, צריך להיכנס לשטחים, וכל מחבל שעושה פיגוע צריך להרוג אותו, צריך להרוג את המחבלים, ואז הם יפחדו ולא יעשו לנו בעיות.
So people will say like, well, fucking Hamas is like, some of the Hamas guys are like pro-Nazi or whatever, like, oh, they have swastikas. It's like, dude, yeah, except Hamas is nothing, okay? They are nothing. Whereas this kind of opinion, okay, is shared by a lot of people who justify one of the world's most powerful fucking militaries. Okay? So that's the fucking difference there. Do you understand? That's the big difference, is that Hamas has nothing and these motherfuckers have everything. Okay?
והכל יהיה בסדר. הם יהיו בכפרים שלהם, אנחנו נחיה פה, לא צריך להיות ביחד והכל בסדר.
I think also that every Arab that doing a terrorism attack, we have to kill him, and not because he's an Arab, because he's a terrorist. I think you should also kick out the family, because it all begins with chinuch. How you say it?
Education.
Whatever they teach the kids does. You know, it's families.
I'm think that we need to... איך אומרים לאיש בערבית? כן, תגידי לי את המילה הזאת. נו, תגידי לי מילים, אני לא...
אני לא יודעת לתרגם. I don't know how to translate really well.
I think we should give them a country. If you're doing any problem, you just go in there to give them a country, and then it's going to be a war between countries, you know? If they're going to throw rockets, we're going to throw one big one and done.
I don't think there's any answer to it. Really? There's only one way, like, I would carpet bomb them.
You would carpet bomb them?
It's the only way you could deal with it. Like,
dude, but look how, dude, guys, the real problem with ethnic cleansing of this sort is how much it hurts my feelings to do so. Like, come on, we just got to carpet bomb them, bro. Just like one big boom, okay? Just like fucking wipe them out with a nuclear holocaust. Like, come on. The irony, of course, is that like if Israel tried to nuke Gaza, like what would happen to Israel, I wonder, in its entirety? Like, are you fucking stupid? You guys literally live on top of one another. Like, this guy, the other guy, is so blinded by hatred towards Palestinians that he doesn't even realize that, like, nuking Gaza would mean nuking Israel. Okay? Like, the entirety of Israel would be nuked. No, not this guy saying carpet bombing, you fucking idiot. I love that this guy saying carpet bombing isn't nuclear, ... I'm talking about the other guy in the fucking Sons of Anarchy shirt who literally said we should do one big boom.
or try to stop them a different way. It never worked.
You mean all...
By who? Serious? No, dude. I'm saying that Israel nuking Gaza would have nuclear fallout that has severe consequences on the entire country because they are on top of one another. It's like a New Yorker saying we need to nuke Hoboken. It's like it's like someone in Manhattan being like, we need to fucking nuke Brooklyn, dude. Do you not understand? Are you that fucking stupid?
Arabs or Gaza or...
I believe that they, like, I hope to believe they're not, but I do think they are, because I don't trust them. You can't trust them. And that's the only way I believe that. The only way is just to stop it completely.
I think that we're miserable. The Arabs make a פיגועים and we need to kill Arabs. No.
Okay.
We'll talk about this later.
All right, cool. Well,
there is also Jewish civilians that hate Arabs. Yeah, I'm not saying, but we have also people that like the Arabs and everything, like Smolanim.
I think another thing that the Jews should have rights to hate them. I think we have the right to hate them. I don't see a reason why not. I wouldn't trust any of them.
To better understand this mentality, I also talked to Ronnie Barkin, a Jewish Israeli citizen who grew up in the country and is now an ardent critic of the notion of a Jewish state.
Like anyone growing up in Israel, I went through the whole indoctrination mechanism. And we are being trained to be soldiers from kindergarten, literally from kindergarten. The moment I realized, I managed to sort of
Dude, please stop focusing on these individual things. People do the exact same for Palestinians and paint them all as Hamas. they're not a monolith, which you recognize and say, but then you show these, you contribute to that image regardless. Please show some interviews with left-wing Israelis to show that they're not a monolith. Read, please. Dude, I literally fucking... First of all, I'm currently in the process of doing that. Like, this is literally an Israeli person who is a fucking activist. So why don't you just wait for the entire video? And secondly, like, what the fuck, dude? Secondly, I started today's conversation by going over Jewish currents, which is predominantly a bunch of writers, some of which are from Israel, like leftist Jews and leftist writers from Israel as well, and their coverage on the matter, which also featured the Jewish and Israeli opposition to the occupation.
Overcome that indoctrination, then everything became very clear because the situation is crystal clear. One of the main successes of Israeli propaganda is to convince the world that the situation is complicated. But it's far from being complicated. It's probably the least complicated conflict in the world today. And it's all about basically those who have the power, those who oppress and subjugate and tread over the indigenous people of the land who have been oppressed and subjugated and expelled from their land. And this is what it's about. The situation here is not very different other than the way it is perceived in the world and among Israeli society themselves. They like to perceive themselves as being something else, as being, liberal and progressive and all of that. And I also thought of myself as such until I realized that actually...
You just thought saying Jewish, to be honest, because I think people are sensitive to that. I don't. I very fucking clearly categorize as Israeli or Zionist, depending on what I'm talking about.
This is not the case. The case is very clear, and I'm not on the right side of history. And that's when, the moment I managed to overcome this type of brainwashing, then the rest was very easy. The State of Israel is all about creating a place which is for one select group and only that. It's not only the fact that they wanted to take over, to usurp the land and the resources and all of that. It's also about this exclusive nature of the place, that this is ours and only ours. And even any Palestinian being born in Israel, even if they're Israeli citizens, is already regarded as some sort of a threat to the state.
Let me say something. Like, obviously, every fucking geopolitical conflict is technically complicated, okay? And I'm not saying it's like super fucking simple, even though I get triggered whenever people say it's complicated, because it's complicated is more frequently utilized by people who just want to fucking abstain from saying anything about an ethno-state project that is an occupying force that subjects millions of Palestinians to terrible amounts of fucking cruelty. That part is not complicated. Okay? The act of fucking self-preservation, albeit from a fucking horrible group of individuals, the Islamist fundamentalists or whatever, okay, regardless, is not actual justification for the untold amounts of cruelty that Israel subjects all Palestinians to, okay? So that part is not fucking complicated, for me at least. I think it's ridiculous to be like, well, hold on, dude. Sorry, Hamas is lobbing fucking rockets on Israel, or Hamas did fucking suicide bombings, so I guess every Palestinian needs to die, or if they're not fucking fortunate enough to be eviscerated quickly in the middle of the night with their fucking families while they're like sleeping in a bed, then they have to literally live in the world's largest open-air prison, or if they're the luckiest, get, second-class citizenship within the walls of Israel, where their businesses might get fucked over, or where they might have, like, a Israeli mob beat the shit out of them, like a fucking crazy Zionist mob beat the shit out of them for the crime of being fucking Palestinian. Okay? So, it's not very complicated in that respect.
Need to segregate.
It's only complicated if you want to both sides the issue and be like, well, fucking 3,000 years ago, this was Jewish land. So let's start there. No, motherfucker, you're complicating things on purpose to justify the untold amounts of cruelty. That's it.
They need to separate and not to interact with Palestinians is part of Israeli identity. So we have to understand that Israeli identity depends on denying Palestinian identity and denying either the existence of Palestinians altogether or at the very least denying their identity, their culture, and so on. And also, right after the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, right after the Palestinians were expelled from their homes and became refugees, the very next thing that happened was that there was a concerted effort of mass looting of books and other cultural artifacts from Palestinian homes, which was led by the National Library in Israel. So it's for a reason that when we say existence is resistance for Palestinians, this is true. Just by very existing on their land, this is an act of resistance in itself. Even more so when they actually claim their rights, claim their identity, do cultural work, like produce Palestinian culture, that is an act of war.
After learning a lot in Jewish history and Israel history, I've seen that people make a big deal about a lot of different areas. But if you look back, correct me if I'm wrong, if you look back at the history, the areas, these places are really rightfully ours. If it was any other country that would have conquered these places or taken over these places, nobody would make a big deal. It's just because it's Israel and there's anti-Semitism and everything.
What the fuck, dude? Yo, it's so fucking stupid. No, it's not rightful at all. It's fucked up because it's happening right now. And when okay, here's the problem, okay? To this American Zionist who is I have literal fucking religious claim over this territory that I've been living in for 11 years. So fuck you if you've been living here for hundreds, because it's mine now, okay? Jesus fucking Christ. You're basically stating that when you learned all the lessons from history, you didn't derive a fucking moral lesson from it whatsoever. That was actually just a guideline of what to do. We always like to think that if we were there when these unjustifiable actions of cruelty were occurring throughout history, that we would at least not fucking defend it. Maybe you wouldn't maybe you wouldn't fucking grab arms against it, but at the very least you wouldn't sit there and justify it. Meanwhile, she's like, nah, dude, I read all that shit so I could fucking literally be like, that was sick. We should do our own right now.
They kicked us about 2,000 years ago, and we came back. We have Jerusalem. We built every stone here. Every stone, 3,000 years ago. Over here,
This all is 3,000 years ago?
this is the city of David, 2,500 years ago. All history of the Jewish people, and the Islam doesn't have history at all in this country.
I think that they should actually look.
Bro, that's insane, dude. So what happened, bro? Did they put it on ice? Motherfucker's like, yo, it was crazy. 2,000 years ago, we were expelled. And actually, they just held the region in a stasis state. They just fucking paused. They just put the region on pause. And now we want to come back. I don't know how these people got here. I don't know. It's crazy. What the fuck were they doing here? This was on pause. So they were like Aang from Avatar. Yeah, they just fucking stasis. Yeah, they just fucking hit the area on stasis. They just pause.
Look at a history book and look at the progression of history and who occupied Israel. Go further back. So if it could be that the Palestinians occupied Israel, that's true, but who occupied that?
Also, yeah, I was going to say Palestinians have nothing to do with 2,000 years ago. It was fucking Romans. But hey, technically it's all Italian territory. If we are to say that Italy is the continuation of the Roman Empire, then give it back to the Italians, motherfucker. But guess what? You don't want POCs to thrive, okay? You don't want the Fredo Republic to fucking thrive, dude. The Fredo Empire.
That before that, and if you keep going back to the times of the Bible, you'll see that it was indeed the Jews that did occupy.
Palestinian, where are the Palestinian people during 4,000 years under the Ottoman? Answer me.
Wait, what? They were literally there, bro. What the fuck? Wait, what? Wait. They were there, dude. What is he saying? Wait, they were literally there. What is this? Motherfucker is 4,000 years old, personally, and I guess, like, didn't care to recognize history from, like, fucking 200 years ago, dude. Bro, you should know where they were. You were literally alive back then. Some of my fondest memories are of the Ottoman Empire, where no Palestinians lived in Palestine.
Well, I'm the journalist here, so I don't...
And how God punished is the sins? By other people. He said, he sent the Nazis, he sent, and now he sent Palestinians.
Okay.
But it's really rightfully ours if you look at the history and at, like, the wars, and we didn't even start a lot of the wars, and we conquered these places rightfully, like it's ours.
We brought the settlements in by Gaza, you know, all the Gush Katif strip.
Gave Gaza back.
Well, we gave part of Israel. It's not that it's not Gaza. We do things for peace.
I think that the Jews came here, they took this land, and this is our land now, and I don't think there should be here no Arabs. Like Arabs, they want, we gave them Gaza, they should go live there quietly. If they want, they should go back to Iraq, I don't know, to wherever they want. But this is a place that God gave it to the Jews, and we don't want the Arabs to be here.
And before they accuse anyone of occupying, they should actually look back and look at history.
So you wouldn't call any of this occupied territory?
No, I think that whatever deals were made and wars were fought, they took the land, and that's...
Wait. But, like, according to everyone, except for Americans who go, la, 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 I don't care, and Israelis, it's literally occupied territory. Okay? What were those deals? Explain to me how those deals work. Those deals literally meant that that territory should not be occupied by Israel. Also, the irony of, like, the UK fucking just backseating this process where they're like, God gave us this territory. No, motherfucker. It was England, okay? So, I guess, you know, they're your gods. Good shit.
That's the way things work. I mean, would you call America occupied by Americans because the British used to rule?
The people who kicked the Jews out of Israel were the Arabs. 1,400 years later, we come back.
What the fuck? Oh, Jesus Christ. It was literally the Palestinian, the Arab Romans did this.
Now, I'm not saying that we can blame the people living here for what happened, but you gotta accept that that's some kind of divine justice, that their great-great-great-great-grandfathers kicked my great-great-great-grandfather out of here, and then we come back, and all of a sudden they're like, well, no, we don't want it, it's not fair. They took the land from us, not the Romans, and not the Persians, and not the Byzantines. It was...
Dude, ultra-nationalist rhetoric is so identical. Literally, all of it is the same. This is no different than, like, the fucking Turanist takes from... like the Turks who say, like, you know, JJJ Turks who are like, oh, dude, everything is Turk, bro. The world is Turk, bro. Are you fucking kidding me, bro? Native Americans are Turk. Like, we make fun of that shit all the time here. It's literally the same as, like, fucking the Nazi claim to, like, the fatherland and building a nation state for, you know, the pure Aryan Germans. Like, it's always like, it's always the fucking same kind of propaganda. It is so hilarious, dude.
Arabs who took this land from Jews. And so, yeah, we came back and we took what was rightfully ours.
Besides the fact that before the Jews came to here in the late 1800s, early 1900s, it was like a barren land. Like, because the Jews came here, it started to like flourish or whatever and become actually, like, people started planting things and making settlements in all these places. If the Jews never came here, then it'd be in the same place it was like 200 years ago, or not where it is today. And so the Jews came here and they started making it better for also the Arabs, and they only start to be an issue because the Arabs started to make it more of an issue.
How many people think like you? What is the state of the left wing within Israeli society?
So the people who think like me are a negligible few, and I would argue that there is no left in Israel and never ever existed. What you have are those self-proclaimed leftists, liberals.
Okay, this is a little aggro, dude.
Who basically speak the language of peace and human rights and so on.
Because that's not fucking true. There's like literal leftist Jews that get beaten up by the fucking IDF and shit. Unless he means like he's right. It's complicated in the same way a plane crash. Sure, there's a ton of factors that influence the crash, but you don't look to the plane wreckage and go, I bet that plane deserved it. Shapiro, take on people defending Palestine. Disgusting. Leftist cover for terrorist group Hamas. No, we're going to do.
In order to sugarcoat their racism and supremacy. And they speak a very different language than the acting government, for example, because the acting government is clearly a right-wing government. They are shameless about their racist attitudes and so on. They say this is ours and only ours. Many of them are decent enough to say, yes, there was the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, and that's a good thing. The problem is that we haven't finished the job, that there are still Palestinians left in Palestine. With the other type of Zionists, with the so-called left in Israel, we cannot even agree about the basic facts. But for them, in order to feel that they are both Zionist and moral at the same time, they have to keep lying to themselves all the time, every moment of every day. So they have perfected this whole discourse of lies in order to lie to themselves and also in order to lie to the international community, in order to just...
The reason why you guys keep saying this is exactly like annexation of Ukraine, or this is exactly like fucking British rhetoric in the colonies, this is exactly the same kind of things that we heard about apartheid South Africa, is because it's the fucking same. It's a colonization project, and we are seeing it happen before our eyes. That's why. It's literally the fucking same. You can cry about it all fucking day long and be like, well, we have a very complicated history of marginalization, which is true, but that doesn't fucking give you the right to literally turn around and subject others to the same kinds of fucking cruelty. Sorry, it just doesn't work that way, as I've said over and over again. And that's why I was saying that this is nearly identical in many ways to the Western nations and their colonial efforts, their imperialist efforts that are in some ways ongoing still, or happened throughout history.
Justify their existence here in that.
I think the occupation does have a big role and important. I don't think there should be no occupation at all, but in the occupation things needs to be more human.
Do you get called a leftist a lot?
Yeah, and I am a leftist.
Is leftist a slur sometimes?
Yes, it is. It is not a good way to be called in Israel.
Israel doesn't want to compromise on security. They have to do a blockade. They have to kind of cut this off. It's ridiculous what people have to go through there, but it's also ridiculous what we have to do to keep ourselves safe.
We don't want to fight with them. No. But if they ask for it, they will get it. And we're much stronger, much stronger. We are very...
Like, what are they asking for? Nobody asked for it. Did they ask for their fucking villages to be burned down, their towns to be fucking ripped apart and displaced? No, they didn't ask for this shit. They're asking for fucking water, motherfucker. That's what they're asking for, clean water.
Behave very gently and morally. Very gently with them.
It could get a lot
Indigenous
worse.
people
is what
cannot
you're
be
saying.
colonizers in their own land.
If the
Jews are from Judea. Okay. Yes, they can. They're doing it right now. Okay. And that rhetoric is so fucking idiotic because if you go far back enough, you can find a different group of indigenous people in every fucking place on the planet. Okay?
Russians was here.
I kept going back. Land found out that there was the first known cultural group to inhabit Israel were the Natufian. Israel for the Natufian.
2 days, they will kill all of them. If the American will be here, they will kill them 2 days. They don't care about human rights.
I mean, it might as well be the Americans that are there. It's like American tech, American support, American rockets. I mean, Israel has a robust defense program too on in and of itself, but like it's Americans literally fucking either in more pacifist instances turning the other cheek or literally fucking defending Israel unconditionally. So
Rights, they don't care about nothing.
Israel's holding back.
Very, very.
But it's war, and civilians get killed in war, and it's a horrible, on their side, less on our side, but at the same time, we...
Also hilarious because, like, Americans are there. Like, there are plenty of fucking American Jews that lay claim and shit in Israel and come back, like, hyper-religious people that fucking literally come back and want to play a role in the occupation project. So yeah, that's... I don't know how else to fucking describe this. Like, there's definitely Americans there too.
Put money into protecting ourselves.
Well, look, the refugees their situation is horrible, but no other nation in the world gets the refugee status that Palestinians do. The Palestinians, third-generation people, are still considered refugees.
I had friends that were Canadian. They went on their passports. They wanted to see what the refugee camps were. They wanted to see what it was all about. They came back. They said it's nothing what I imagined it.
Like better than they imagined? Or?
They said people were driving around with nice cars, people had nice houses, villas, things like that. They thought people were being oppressed, like living in tents. It's like they probably were, like maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, like in the past.
For them, in order for them to be Zionist and moral, in order for them to have a Jewish and democratic state, they needed, first of all and foremost, to create a Jewish majority by force, by driving away the indigenous people from their land. And this is how the state was founded. And immediately afterwards, they created a whole legal system that will make sure that those who have been expelled will never be allowed back.
Yeah, that's the best part about it, is that, like, all of the people displaced in the Nakba, like, they have no stake over their fucking historic homes, no matter how many fucking hundreds of years their families have lived there. But the motherfuckers that have been living in occupied Jerusalem, those guys also don't have a fucking stake if they're Palestinian. It's great, dude. It's great. It's literally like, if you create a legal system where Palestinians have no rights, then they're awesome. Like, obviously, like, it's all legal, boys. I'm confused. What do you mean?
And those who remained on their land, because not everyone was expelled, will never be equal citizens. Unfortunately, what we hear on mainstream media, this so-called discourse or so-called debate between the right and the left is about that. It's about, do we want a large Israel, which is Arab-free, or do we want a small Israel, which is Arab-free? This is the debate that's taking place.
Last question. There's this whole international movement of leftists and activists who want to boycott Israel.
That's by the way, the other lie about the two-state solution is that, and I think that's what he's like kind of talking about or alluding to, is that, like, the two-state solution was a project that I was in support of in the past as well, because I thought that these two nation states could coexist. But the reality is, like, the two-state solution is just a justification for Israel to be like, look, we're trying to do a two-state solution as they take over more and more territory, push away, purge all the Palestinians into areas that are inhabitable, and inhabitable because of the conditions that they themselves have created. just to slowly but surely keep fucking doing displacement and ethnic cleansing. That's it.
Israel for human rights violations, being here, seeing that, and what do you just think about that?
I live in Minneapolis, and I know a bunch of teenagers that are my age that spent summers in Israel, and while they were activists for BLM last summer, now they have no problem with oppressing minorities. Yeah, that's the beauty. That's the beautiful part about this, for the record. I'm going to talk about Jewish Voices for Peace, and if not now, in a second. I love those guys. Okay, hold on. Uninhabitable. Okay, so that's the hilarity, is that like BLM, hashtag BLM motherfuckers are just like, but Palestinians, like, they kind of deserve to be cleansed. You know what I mean? Where it's like, come on, dude. Like, Israel's such a sick fucking, summer vacation for me, dude. Sorry, dude. Like, I don't know. They're like fucking pro-LGBT though, and Muslims are kind of scary. But like hashtag BLM though. I don't know. It's great. It's fucking great.
I think the BDS movement, the leaders of the BDS movement, or everyone that thinks that Israel is bad, if they should read up about the topic, the other side, and they should come here and see how everybody's comfortable.
Wait, what?
There's this whole international movement of leftists and activists who want to boycott Israel for human rights violations. Being here, seeing that, and what do you just think about that?
I think the BDS movement, the leaders of the BDS movement, or everyone that thinks that Israel is bad.
Did this motherfucker just say the leaders of the BDS movement should come here? How are they going to do that, dude? You think it's so free to travel to like Israeli territory as a fucking vocal Palestinian activist? Like, what kind of take is that, dude? Yeah, just come here, bro. Which is like, which could be read as a threat, I feel like. Just come here, motherfucker. Come on. Just see how nice it is in Israel. Come on. Just come here, dude. Great.
If they should read up about the topic, the other side, and they should come here and see how everybody's comfortable.
People right now, they're looking at Israel and they're calling it an apartheid state. And Israel is not an apartheid state. There's places, I mean, my family from 5 generations ago, they were from Jenin. You can't find one Jew in Jenin right now. I mean...
What? Israel's not an apartheid state? Bro. Like... Dude, look right there. Look at that car. That is a yellow license plate. That's another yellow license plate. Do you see any cars in this entire video in the surrounding region with green license plates? No. You want to know why? Because Palestinians don't have the right to fucking travel in a lot of these neighborhoods. Okay? Why? Because there's an apartheid.
It's totally Jew-free. So if you want to think about a racist apartheid state, it seems it's more, in my opinion, coming...
Yeah, dude. Apartheid states have never historically had, two different groups coexist while still subjugating the other group. Apartheid South Africa, for example... dude, like, famously, no black people were there, actually.
Coming from their side.
And just a response, I guess, to kind of this international movement, the BDS movement, and also the movement that says settlements are illegal, they're encroaching on Palestinian land. Can you respond to that accusation?
I think the response would be two-part. The first part would be very simple. Nobody gives Turkey problems for their settlements in Cyprus. It's an anti-Semitic thing.
What? Dude, that is not true. That's literally not fucking true, dude. What the fuck? How is that That is literally not true. Like, whoa, yeah, everyone's favorite country on the planet, Turkey. If anything, instead of talking about Cyprus, talk about fucking Kurds, dude, okay? But of course, he's not going to talk about Kurds because, like, it's very similar to fucking... One, Kurds are also Muslim, and two, similar occupation to, like, or similar displacement to what he considers to be positive and good when Israel is doing it to Palestinians. But, like, this whataboutism betrays the fucking values that you espouse. Okay? You either believe that it's good. Okay? You either believe that it's good and that's why you're defending it, or you believe it's bad when other people do it, but it's good when you do it. Like, because you can't turn around and be like, what Israel did is actually pretty fucking poggers. But look at Turkey. No one's criticizing Turkey. It's like, dog, okay then. So what's up? Like, what's up then? What's up with Israel then?
Maybe they don't know that they hate Jews, but they give us so much trouble. The UN only talks about Israel. What about North Korea? What about Russia? Then the second thing would be to...
Yeah, famously armed by the Western states and legitimized by the most powerful states on the planet, North Korea and Russia. But once again, whataboutism betrays the actual values that you espouse. You cannot act like you're a fucking progressive and then criticize Russia and North Korea while simultaneously drawing that equivalence on your own. I didn't even say it. You said it. You drew that equivalence and then fucking said that's bad, implying that it's bad when they do it, but it's somehow good when you do it.
To say is that...
Even from the UN?
Completely from the UN. I mean, come on. You're talking about that we're worse than the North Korean dictatorship? Like, nobody in the world thinks that. So those people in the UN and all these peace activists...
Wait, what?
Completely from the UN. I mean, come on. You're talking about that we're worse than the North Korean dictatorship? Like, nobody in the world thinks that. So those people in the UN and all these peace activists...
Okay, first of all, the difference between North Korea and Israel, and I've said this about America and North Korea routinely, is that North Korea does not have the fucking fraction of the power to do anything to South Korea, with the exception of, like, artillery fire if push came to shove, which would then subsequently turn the entirety of North Korea into fucking glass. Okay? Also, why is your metric for manageable apartheid conditions fucking North Korea? Okay? Like, oh, dude, we're not as bad as North Korea, dude. What the fuck? Which I don't even believe, for the record. No, it's worse. America is worse than North Korea in the sense that America, maybe not to its own citizens, but to fucking literally other countries, America subjects them to significantly worse conditions than what North Korea can do to any other country, sheerly because they do not have fucking power. They just don't. They don't. If you think North Korea is powerful in any way, you're a fucking idiot, okay? You're a delusional moron that has been fed so much fucking propaganda that you think this country that, like, doesn't even have the fucking GDP or economic power or any power in general comparable to, like, a fucking American state like Wisconsin, okay? Then you're a delusional psycho. That's one. And two, why is it that, like, your metric for success, this is like when Americans say, like, gun violence in our country, sweaty. Have you heard of El Salvador? It's like, why is that the fucking metric? Oh, America doesn't have healthcare. Well, what about Somalia? They don't have healthcare too. Okay. I didn't realize we were the wealthiest nation on earth and we're comparing ourselves to fucking Somalia. Like, that's crazy, dude. That's crazy.
I mean, look, she's a woman. She's walking around however she wants here in Israel, right? There's female genital mutilation in Egypt, not very far from here. Why don't people talk about that?
What the Dude, based anti-female genital mutilation take from, you know, a Jewish person who gets circumcised, but that's of course I'm not an intactivist, so I'm not going to touch that subject. But hilarious. Okay. Why isn't North Korea dangerous? Because they are a fucking laughably small and laughably powerless nation. Okay?
I think that like we should have not more rights. I think we have rights to build more houses for our citizens, and like a lot of things that Israel gets criticism for, other countries will never get it.
אני רוצה להגיד פה לראש ממשלה פה בארץ, בישראל, אין מצב שיהיה פה שלום בארץ. אי אפשר לעשות איתם שלום, הם תמיד שונאים אותנו. אם אי אפשר לעשות שלום והמצב ככה לא יכול להישאר, אז צריך לטפל בהם בדרכים אחרות, אין מה לעשות.
It's irrelevant. The views of Israelis about the situation are totally irrelevant to the question of how do we change the situation. Did it matter what white people think about apartheid in South Africa at the time? The question is, how do we end apartheid and how do we end Israeli crimes? You know, every Israeli official will claim to speak on behalf of the Jewish people and will even demand of Palestinians to recognize Israel's right to be a Jewish state and so on.
How is female genital mutilation in Egypt relevant to Israel? No, when you get like a Zionist, when you back a Zionist into like an intellectual corner, they just literally start doing we're fucking vegan, dude. Like we're LGBT friendly and we're fucking vegan and like that's it. It's just like I have no other thing to say here and it's not great. So yeah, we're actually we're not North Korea. It's kind of fucked up what North Korea is doing. Why aren't you talking about that? It's whataboutism. You and the hoodie gang fuck circumcision law? No, unfortunately, I was robbed of my foreskin as a baby.
I don't recognize Israel's right to be a Jewish state because it is not Jewish by religion. It is only Jewish by supremacy. Israel is Jewish just like South Africa was white in the exact same context.
True.
With the exact same meaning.
This is true. Straight up.
And obviously any decent person around the world should oppose that because it is inherently racist and more than that. And it also happens to be very much against international law. So when we talk about Israel as an apartheid state, even though it's not exactly like South Africa, it neatly falls under the legal definition of the crime of apartheid, which is a very serious crime, one of the few crimes that is regarded as a crime against humanity, which means that all countries of the world are obligated to do something against it, not to be complicit in that. And what we're coming and saying is, no, there are basic fundamental Palestinian rights that must be respected. One of them is ending of occupation, of course, but that's not the main issue, that's part of the issue. The other two rights are equality inside Israel proper, or what we call Palestine 48, and the rights of the refugees which are being expelled from there since the very foundation of the State of Israel. These are fundamental rights, they must be respected. And now we can debate, we can argue about how do we implement these rights. I'm willing to discuss that. I'm not willing to discuss,
God damn it. Every time I get like an itch, I don't know if it's like with you guys as well, but when you get an itch inside of your nose, it's unrelated to the story completely. But like, it just gets worse and worse when you start itching it. Sorry, I don't know if it's because I have too many nose hairs. Negotiable. You guys need to stop the debate on fucking foreskins and stuff. None of your peepees matter, okay? Stop. Inside of my nose hole, yes.